All right, people, this is Naga Apparel podcast. Today we got a special guest. Her name is Dana Reynolds Manish. Mom, where you from? New York?
Oh, I'm from New Jersey, which is south of New York.
She definitely has something special for us. Like I said, I have dived into some African ancient mythologies, and I came across her work, and I think she really got something spectacular for the people. And just introduce yourself and just dive right into the topic.
Okay, my name is Dana Marniche, and I've been studying the history of the Berbers and Moors that entered Spain, as well as the roots of the Hebrew people since the 1990s, basically. I wrote originally for an article for Dr. Ivan van Sertima, who wrote this book. I don't know if you can see it, Golden Age of the Moor. My article was the main. I'm the one that told him we need to put something out there about the Moors because most of the.
Wow, I mean, he's a legend, though.
Yeah. So yeah, I actually studied with him, or studied, as a student of his at Rutgers. So, but I was already into studying the Moors and Berbers and the different African tribes or clans that made up the Berbers. And they weren't just, it turns out they weren't just African, there were also another black people, and they are, at that time, were called Arabs. But since that time, both the Berbers and the Arabs have been the names have been taken up by peoples in the Middle East and North Africa that are not necessarily black or black African, but at the time that the Moors were in power in Iberia, which is Spain, Portugal, and in southern Italy, they were mainly, black Africans. And black Africans were also based in North Africa at that time. So that's, how I first got into really studying about, the roots of the Moors or Berbers and the Arabs. But then later on, I ran into, this was actually also, I was an undergrad. I was at Rutgers when I wrote that. Or I had gone to get my master's in anthropology from the University of Chicago. But so I wrote that article, and it got worldwide it was honored by scholars worldwide, and Dr. van Sertima was happy about that. So then I wrote I started getting into the study of physical anthropology. At that time, genetics wasn't really out. Biological anthropology was just starting. So I wrote about the evolution of terms or terminology to describe peoples of the ancient Near East and Africa. So they were using terms like Hamitic, Mediterranean, Proto-Mediterranean, Euro-African for different types of black Africans. And this was kind of like a euphemism to kind of shift people's perspective of who these people were, because they were basically just, sub-Saharan Africans. So the book that Dr. van Sertima wrote was called Egypt, Child of Africa, and I wrote in there the article on the Mediterranean race. Okay. Later on, I started writing or studying more about the Berbers and their connection to Arabia because of what I read in certain colonial texts about, who the Berbers said that they originated with, or who they came from and where they came from. And it turned out, though, that...
what the Berbers look like, so people maybe get a broader understanding who you talking about?
Refers to the people known as the Songhai... I'll put up my... There's a misunderstanding about who the Berbers are and were. I don't know if I'm sharing now. Am I sharing?
No, not right now.
Hold on. Okay. So this is on my Facebook page, but this is just a group of people in the middle of the Saharan area near Morocco. Let's see. This is Algeria and Morocco, and these people are actually descendants of the people known as Gaetuli to the Romans. They were a group of people that became the Moors in Morocco and Algeria. Mori or Morosoi. But in the south, they were known as the Sonic and the Songhai.
So these people are the original Songhai people?
Well, the original Songhai came from North Africa. Ghana itself was in Mauritania.
Right.
What's now called Mauritania. So the Kingdom of Ghana started in what's called Mauritanians.
I mean, the way I heard, it reached all the way to Niger, right? Like at one.
Well, this part of the Niger River, that's where the main area was. And then it also stretched to the Fezzan area in Libya. So, parts of Libya and North Africa, way down into this area of Sudan. The Sudan, meaning Bilad es Sudan, meaning the area of the black Africans. And in fact, a lot of the North African area was considered Sudania back then. But let me see. I have, hundreds of pictures on my Facebook page of the Berbers and the Arabs, the black Arabs. The original Berbers, the original Songhai, who called themselves the Beriberi, and that's where you get the name El Barabir, the Arabic word El Barabir. They were part of a group of people known as Sanhaja, who lived with the people's very tall, warlike people called the Tuareg, the men wear the veils. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay. So those people were, let me see if I can just go to some of my pictures that I have saved.
Did these people migrate into these regions, or have they been there?
They started off along the Nile because they had immigrated to the Nile, according to them, after they were pushed out of the Yemen and Arabia and Canaan, which was the area south of Mecca, directly south of Mecca, according to most African and original Arabian peoples. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can find.
Which time frame are we talking about now?
I'm sorry, which what?
The time frame, like around what time?
Yeah, after 2000 BC, people started immigrating into Africa from Arabia, back into Africa from Arabia. So, for example, am I sharing now or no?
Yeah, you sharing. But I'm seeing your Facebook page right now.
Oh, okay, that's not it. That's not what I want. Hold on. Let me go back.
Oh no, I can take it off, and then you just share with me.
Anyway, it's hard if you don't know because all of these topics you could talk about for hours and hours and hours. So if you don't focus on one thing, I'm not sure what your audience is familiar with, but
well, just give us the complete breakdown. Like I said, I never heard about that black people came out of Arabia. I think most people is not aware of that history, like the migration from Arabia into Africa, because mainly we have the opposite way. You know what I mean? Like people came out of Africa and migrated into different regions. But what you actually break it down is the complete opposite. So I would give the people the breakdown of how this thing came to be. Like I said, people claim the level people. How you call them? The Lemba people say they came out of Arabia. The level people say they're from India and Arabia. So just give the people a broader understanding, and also back it up with some pictures and maybe your website, because you got a lot of information on your website as well.
Okay. Well, yeah, on my website, Afro-Asiatica and Odyssey in Black, I have different posts, where people can go. Now, even these posts, some people say they're difficult to understand because they're kind of written from an academic perspective. But so 10,000 years ago, with the advent or beginnings of anthropology, of agriculture and cattle domestication and early civilization, there was movement of Africans into the Near East. Actually, after 15,000 years ago, there were people like the Natufians of Palestine. There were these people in Anatolia. They brought a mother goddess culture. Here are some modern people, just to show you the connection, the relationship, the hairstyle. And these people brought the arts of building megaliths.
So that's Palestine, right? That's Palestine or
ancient Anatolia or Asia.
Okay, that's Turkey.
Otherwise known as Turkey, yes. This is Çatalhöyük. It's one of the earliest civilizations, I think, going back to maybe 7,000 at least BC. Now, there are civilization in Africa started, earlier than this, actually, of course. But just to tell you, a lot of people think automatically just because there was civilization in Turkey thousands of years ago that was necessarily European civilization. But actually, these are the people in Çatalhöyük. Wait, hold on a second. Ancient rock art shows people jumping over cattle like modern Africans. Okay? They're depicted black. So this group of people are generally thought to have been the earliest Semitic speakers. Okay? So for example, this is a guy of the Almatic region of Ethiopia, Ahmar. This is Abeja. So all these people speak what are called Afro-Asiatic type dialects. And you see here is some astronomically aligned rocks, megaliths, dating several thousand BC in Nubia, and it's called Nabta Playa. So this was one of the earliest archaeoastronomical sites. A lot of the early megaliths built by Africans, and this is in somewhere in actually Central or West Africa. These people were building, civilization way long before the emergence of Hebrews and that kind of thing, who were also black. But this particular area is in Arabia, or the southwestern part of Arabia called Tehama. Okay, here's a guy from Malta, 4,000 BC.
So that's the Phoenicians right there?
No, it's a Maltese. These are pre-Phoenician, 2,000 years before the Phoenicians, 2,500 years before the Phoenicians. But the Neolithic period, the period where people were starting to engage in the, making wheat, growing plants to eat, led to, these Neolithic people migrating northwards into Europe and bringing different practices with them, like Stonehenge, the so-called gracile Mediterranean race. This is what the early anthropologists called these people. Not Negroes, not Africans. Gracile Mediterranean race, because they wanted to avoid the fact that they were black Africans. And these are also, this is also somewhere in, I think, Malta. Where was this? I forget. This was Spain. So you have rock art all over the world that was actually, usually resembled the artwork of Africans. This is also Spain, pretty sure. And here is, this might be India, but they also made these kinds of megaliths in Africa. Okay, so this is Dravidian. As I was talking about, the Dravidians actually come from a couple thousand years BC in southern, into India. Okay, another Dravidian. All right, so
that's the original Dravidian before that got mixed up.
Yes, the original Dravidians. If you look at them, they're all kinky-haired people, and they're usually very short. Actually,
I mean, you kind of can see it still in the people from Sri Lanka. They still got curly hairs and stuff like that. You know, like when you go down south and stuff.
A lot of them do. Yes, not all of them, but a lot of them do. And not only that, they're much darker than Africans. Actually, some of them.
Yeah, that's true.
But, so this was
it's like pitch black. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
very true.
Yep. So Catalhoyuk dated from around this period, 8,500 to 5,000 BC. But the important...
It kind of reminds me of Venus of Willendorf.
Yeah. So all this mother goddess culture goes back way back tens of thousands of years, back before even Catalhoyuk. Venus of Willendorf, I think, belongs to the Paleolithic culture, Paleolithic cultures that were in Europe. And a lot of those cultures were, Africoid. Cro-Magnon, they used to call Negroid. Okay? And then later on, other types of people developed. Much later on. So here, for example, I'm talking about how this Edward Lipinski, specialist in Semitic dialects, is saying that the early Proto-Semites were dwelling in Africa in the 5th millennium BC, in the Neolithic. The Neolithic, again, meaning, the time that they start dealing with agriculture. Black humanity starts putting seeds in the ground. Okay? And that is how, that actually also had to do with the change in the more gracile type of African, like you find in Ethiopians and things of that sort. Even though the Ethiopians are much mixed with, the people that settled in that area were Scythic people and Greeks and Romans. They settled in Yemen, and actually some of them pushed them into Ethiopia.
So you're saying that's how the Jewish religion actually ended up in Ethiopia? Because they're the only ones pretty much in Ethiopia that really claim Jewish. I mean, besides the people from Zimbabwe, they probably claim it too. But
the West African, this is the thing is that Yemen and West Africans, the origin of the Jews in Africa, which are a lot of West Africans used to be claimed to be Jews. That includes the Songhai that I was talking to you about, as well as the Lemba, are just a small group in the area of Bantu speakers. But most of the Jews that were in Africa were in West Africa, as well as in the Nile area, as well as in East Africa, meaning Ethiopia or Somalia.
So you're saying they migrated into Africa and brought the religion into Africa, or you saying that the religion actually came from Africa into Arabia and all these other places?
Well, the Hebrews themselves migrated into Africa.
Into Africa.
Yeah. The word Berea, so for example, these a lot of pictures I have are on my Facebook page. This is Oman in the Arabian Peninsula. So all these people I'm showing this is Jordan, actually.
Well, right now I'm just seeing the website. No, I'm not seeing it.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so this is Jordan. So a lot of people, the remnants of the people called Hebrews and Canaanites, those types of peoples, are still found in places like Jordan.
They look like Indians somehow, ain't it?
No, they don't look like Indians. They're very much bigger than Indian. This guy especially doesn't look like an Indian.
I mean, like Darkskin, like the Dravidian.
Basically look like Africans. The people of Gar look like Africans. These are Yemenite people of Beit al-Faqih, where the people of Cushan or in the Bible began. If you do not know the people of Genesis, then you're not going to really be interested in this subject matter, because the entirety of the people of Genesis are the people that I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. People of Genesis or of Noah originally were these people.
Would you agree that Genesis means genes of Isis?
No.
No?
It's an English word. It has nothing to do with that.
Okay. I mean, I heard somebody said it like it's supposed to be the meaning of genes of Isis. So I wasn't sure if it's true or not. That's just what I heard.
No. And that's why it's better to rely on academically inclined people rather than, people, I don't know where you heard that from, but so these people are still in the southern part of Yemen, the people I'm showing you now.
Mm.
Okay? There's still a lot of people resembling Africans there. Well, that was Kamala. Sorry.
For sure.
And this is Kuwait, the original Bedouin of Kuwait. So, hold on.
That's what you call the pure Arabs before.
Yes.
Okay, I get it.
So, if you know anything about my website, probably you've learned that the original Arabs called themselves Hudar, meaning the Kedar, people of Kedar and Ishmael. That word originally meant black iron. So if you look at biblical dictionaries, they'll tell you that Kedar actually means black. And it did come to mean black because the nobles of the Arabs called themselves Hudar, meaning the blacks. And that's where our term of the blacks comes from. Actually, literally it means green, but the Arabs at that time, most of their slaves were actually fair-skinned, so they like to distinguish themselves from the fair-skinned people, who they called the Reds. The blacks and the Reds, or the pink or the whitish people, who were the Byzantines, the Turks, the Central Asians.
Kind of makes sense what you're saying, because Osiris was also considered the green man, ain't he? They depict him as a green person sometimes.
Yes. And it's actually related. The concept is related.
Mm-hmm.
Green black ancestor, he was called the Lord of the Perfect Black, or Absolute Black, and he's also called the Green because he had to do with fertility. And Kedar has to do with green iron, a greenish type of iron, according to Al-Jahiz. These are Moroccans, in Fez. So up until the 20th century, a lot of the northern part of Morocco was still occupied by original black Moroccans. This is just a painting of the Haban tribe of Yemen, which claims to be from the tribe of Dan. These are I'm just showing the Afar people, who are the Afar of the Bible of Median, because Medianites came into Africa and settled in the Horn of Africa, according to Josephus and other people. Mm-hmm. There's the Numidian. I don't know if you've heard of the Numidians. They were the people in the north part of Algeria and Tunisia.
So that's the ones that actually conquered Spain and took over Andalusia.
Yeah, they became the Moors and conquered Spain. Yeah, along with the other people called Tuareg. And I distinguish the Tuareg because the Tuareg tend to be, the true Tuareg are giants. They're like 7 feet and over tall. And they're the ones that wear the veil.
Makes sense.
Yeah, here's some children of Arabia. Here's a Moroccan women of the Masmuda tribe.
Are these Berbers too?
Yes. The Masmuda Berbers, yes. One of the main groups of Berbers that used to live in the upper Atlas, or they still live there, and also the upper plains of Morocco. Mm. And they were described as black in all medieval sources, as well as all other Berbers were described as black, including the Amazigh people that was a name originally for the Tuareg that was usurped in the 20th century by people that are not Tuareg, but speak the Tuareg-related dialects. I'm just showing you how early Russians and East Europeans and other people in Turkey portrayed early Christians, because the earliest Christians came from Arabia. They were called Manaeans or Minim. They were the original Jews that turned Christian. Mm-hmm. Jesus was, of course, one of them. Just showing, different colors of Saudi Arabia.
Can you go back? Can you go back again? And these guys also Arabians, right?
Yeah, people of the Saudi Arabians, I think. Yeah, Saudi soldiers. Okay. All right. So, and here's, well, anyway.
The ones that we have now, the ones that's a bit more light skinned compared to the pictures you're showing us now. So did these people become light skinned because of slavery? Because these guys was hunting down European white women, or how did that change?
They were not. Yes, they were a mixture of different slaves, and then there were people that came in to work the mines as slave soldiers, and people of basically, and not only that, but a strong or a large part of the changing of the complexion of Arabs, like the Berbers, had to do with the white concubinage, or Eurasian women from Circassia, from the Slavs, from Syria and Persia. That was, according to colonialists, even the British colonialists that were there, a lot of these South Arabians were still taking Persian or Iranian women as concubines. Mm-hmm. You'll see that even among some of the Arab tribes.
History books also tells you that the Moors had a lot of raids in Europe and took a lot of these women from Europe, especially from East Europe, and brought them into these places and stuff. And so it kind of makes sense. Okay, now continue. Very interesting.
This is just a group of Yemenite people. Here's an early portrayal of Moors in Syria against the Seljuk Turks.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
And can you please can you talk about the Seljuks a bit? These are the ones that came down from the north, from the Russian region, and migrated into the south, right?
Well,
or where these people?
In general, were different types of people from Turkmenistan and Turkestan, the area of Central Asia, which is bordering on Mongolia and Siberia and places like that. So the original Turks actually looked like Mongolians, and that's why you have to get the name Mogul, the Mughal Empire in India. Mm-hmm. So the Muslims came down, and they were originally looked like the Mongolians, and that's why you see in the paintings, a lot of the paintings, you see them with the kind of Far Eastern type look.
You said these Seljuks, they started the war with the dark-skinned Turks?
Well, not just the Seljuks, but the Mamluks, mm-hmm. and different groups of Turks. Yeah, they were like, even somebody was just talking to me the other day about the Kurds, or the like, what's his name? Who was the head of the Kurdish? The Saracen, I can't think of his name right now, but during the early medieval period, which was, between the 10th and 13th centuries AD, you had rulers come down, Saladin and other people of, Turkish origin. They came down from Turkey at the time when it was either, Europeans also occupied Turkish. Mm-hmm. Turkey. So that whole area, there were different types of Turks. There were people that looked like Mongolians.
Let me ask you a question. Who created Constantinople? Who were these people? Was it the Seljuks, or was it the blacks?
The Byzantines.
The Byzantines.
Yeah, the Byzantines were Greek, early Neo-Romans or Neo-Greek, Greco-Romans. People that were actually from, they used to have blondish hair, reddish hair, mm-hmm. That had come down into Greece and places like that. So they were the new Neo-Romans, they're called, or the Greco-Romans. Mm-hmm. They were basically in charge of Constantinople, but there were also other people like the Saracen Arabs that happened to be black that mm-hmm. lived in Turkey, and also some of the early rulers of these areas in Turkey and even Constantinople were black. Yes, but basically those were, European or Eurasian places after a certain period. But okay, here's Timbuktu, and here's Tunisia, one of the ancient capitals of Tunisia, Kairouan, and that's actually I think this is a painting.
That look completely different to when you compare it to now. This
Yes.
is a picture different look.
Yeah.
Wow.
So a lot of people, for example, in Egypt came down during the industrial era in the 18th and 19th century from Syria and other places, Turkey. So there's been a lot of change in different areas of North Africa as well as the Near East.
So you're saying that's pretty much recent time since the changes happened?
Yeah, a lot of it's been recent. Even though there were many Circassian dynasties, this is also Tunisia. This is just a period. Most of the ancient saints were depicted, and the apostles were depicted in the early Christian Eastern Orthodox churches. In the Coptic Church, they were often depicted as very dark-skinned or black people.
I see.
Because the people in Jordan, the people like John the Baptist occupied, and the Essenes and people like that occupied this area of what's called the Gar, or Transjordania, which was occupied mainly by black people who were of Israelite and Nabatean or Ishmaelite descent. So these are Yemenite refugees that settled in the Horn of Africa. Okay, so here is the town of Wadi Qura in the Transjordanian area where John the Baptist lived. And many of the people there, or most of the people there, of course, are like him.
That's Jordan, man.
He's not Indian, as you can see. His hair is like...
Yeah, it's definitely kinky. And that's you said that's Jordan, right? The country Jordan?
Yes, it's near the Dead Sea. A lot of the people near the Dead Sea look like this.
Interesting.
And these are people in what's called the Yafa area of Aden. And they were called the Yafi Bani Qasid in the book of Joshua, otherwise called Epha in the Bible. Epha, son of Midian. So my whole, it's hard to, just go through each tribe and stuff if you don't know much about the Bible, who the Midianite tribes were, who the Israelite tribes were, who the Ishmaelite tribes were. But my whole thing was to show that the ancient Israel, Canaan of the Bible, was mainly south of Mecca, in the area of Southwest Asia before the Christian era. This is where most of Israel, Canaan, Edom, Moab. This is the area, in southwest of Arabia. This is where they were. So in order to, so I wrote a book called The African and Arabian Origins of the Hebrew Bible, an ethno-historical study. This is Algeria again. And this book talks about, where the people were and who they were, what all the names are today, and doesn't get much into how they migrated into Africa, but I'm actually working on a book now that is actually going to deal with that subject matter. Because a lot of American blacks, or blacks in Europe, whatever, don't understand or know. When I say blacks in America, I mean the Americas. They don't understand that the West Africans, a lot of them claim to come from Canaan and Israel.
See, now you're making a good point, because I was studying on the Yoruba stuff, and then when you check the history on Wikipedia, there's something called Yokdan, right? That the Nigerians, they claim they forefathers came from Yokdan, and then I looked up Yokdan, and it takes you right back to Saudi Arabia again.
Yeah,
it's a region over there. So yeah, it's very interesting. So you're saying like a lot of these African tribes are not really original from Africa, so you're saying they're originally from Arabia. So then the question is, who are the African tribe? Is it the Hottentots or the Bushman from South Africa?
There's plenty. there's
Are these
plenty of Africans.
people from Africa? Or?
There's plenty of Africans that don't claim to have come from Israel and Canaan. For example, a lot of the people like the Zulu, although the Zulu claim to have come from further north, and the Zulu have traits that link them to ancient Egypt. Actually, a lot of the Bantu do. But yeah, when I say there were dozens of tribes in West Africa and the Sudan, in other words, the area extending from the Atlantic to the Red Sea near Arabia, that claim to have been kicked out of Arabia, which they call Canaan and Israel, by people like Sargon, and to have been slaves of Sargon, actually, as Jews, and to have been kicked out by Nebuchadnezzar or Bukhtar-Nasser, the Chaldean.
That's from Iraq, right? You talking about now? Like people from Iraq? Okay.
Yeah, they claim, but what people don't understand is that Nebuchadnezzar actually came into the Yemen and southern parts of Arabia and took the people there as slaves. The original Babylon, for example, was also in Arabia, not in Iraq, where they had also settled in the southern.
So what you saying, like what you saying, kind of like ties into, or could tie into the Ngoma Lagunda, this drum that's supposed to be the Ark of the Covenant. What they also say came out of the Arabian region or even India or whatever. So it kind of like makes sense to what you're saying right now. Like the ties is there somehow, some way. Can you speak on that a little bit? Like what you found out about the Ngoma in Lengungu?
I think that's supposed to be like a replica of the Ark, but the Lemba themselves claim to have come from Sana'a, which is either the Sana'a in Hadramaut, which is southern Yemen, or else southern Yemen, the Sana'a, which is the capital of, actually was the ancient capital of where Jerusalem was, the original Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's, and the thing is about the Lemba is that their genetics tie them closer to the Kohen or priestly caste of the Levites than do the so-called Kohen descendant people in Europe. So the Lemba as a whole are closer connected to the Kohan people or the priestly caste, the Levite caste of the Hebrews than the so-called Kohen caste of Europe. So that's saying something, it's saying
that makes definitely it's a link there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So most of the Songhai Sonic group, the Sonic group, claim to have been descendants of people that extended from Wargla in Algeria. This is not Wargla, but it looks kind of like this. Wargla in Algeria to the area of Mauritania, which is the ancient Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
So ancient Ghana was a lot further north than the modern day Ghana. Okay, and the Sonic claim to have been the part of the Jainawa or Wangara or Garawan people that they're also called Wakur or Wakara. And Wakur and Wakara, according to the Tariqa Sudan and the Tariqa Fatach, the manuscripts of the medieval era, these people supposedly came from Jethro and the Levites and had some kind of fight, and that's how they got to Africa. So originally, before the Islam, a lot of these people were Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They were Judeans, and a lot of the so-called African deities are actually the same names as the so-called prophets in the Bible. They're actually deified ancestors of the African.
So what you say, that kind of like ties into the Coptic Christians that they had before Christianity was actually popping? Could that probably be the ancient Hebrews or the ancient Jewish people that turned into Coptic Christians?
Well, that's a whole other story because there's been different waves of people into Egypt, but the Copts were said to have been the descendants of Kafturim. Kafturim.
Okay.
There's a whole thing that links them to Kafturim. So that's one of the things I'm going to talk about when I talk about the Canaanites and the Mitzrayim and that came into Africa, because a lot of people confuse Mitzrayim with Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a lot of the early people confused what's called Egypt of the Nile in Africa with ancient Mitzrayim of the Bible, which had nothing to do with. The word Pharaoh, for example, was or Pharaoh, in Arabic the plural is Pharaoh, comes from the Amalekite leaders who came into Africa and conquered Egypt. And the descendants of these people were the Tuareg, these giant people that were called Philistines and Amalekites. And that's why if you go into the Hebrew sources in medieval Spain, they call the Almoravid dynasty the dynasty of the Philistines, because that was the dynasty of the Tuareg. And the Tuareg were considered Philistines, the people that had named Palestine and moved into North Africa, chasing other Canaanites into North Africa. Yeah, and the Tuareg have, different castes of people. There's vassal tribes, and those vassal tribes are the Songhai. And they're very adept in metallurgy, mining, the gold trade and the silver trade. And those were actually the same things that the Jews in Arabia were, even today you find a lot of the Jews.
What you saying? So you saying like Mansa Musa and all of these people would probably like you say these people probably was Arabs instead of Africans? Because
No.
when you really study the history of this guy Mansa Musa, he was the richest guy on the planet, and he also moved over to Mecca, or he traveled to Mecca, right? So probably he was going back home to his country where he really came from.
Well, no, I'm not really saying that, because what we're talking about is 2,000 years. We're talking about 1,500 years before Christ is when they started moving into. So for example, the Sonics say that they once were ruled in the area of Mecca or Canaan by Sargon. They were slaves to the king of Baghdad, meaning Iraq, because Sargon of Assyria came into, Sargon and other Assyrian rulers actually had conflict with Arabia back in that day, which was 800 BC or 1000 BC. So after that time, a lot of people were forced to move out of the Tahama, which is the area right across from the Sudan and Egypt. They were forced to move back into Africa, into the Nilotic area. Mm-hmm. So they settled there first and then moved across Africa. And the best way to look at this or see some of the history of this is to look at Josephus. Josephus, the first century, wrote, he's a Roman Jew that wrote Antiquities of the Jews. Mm-hmm. And he's one of the ones that talk about how the Gaetuli, I'm showing you here, all these Gaetulian people of Numidia, actually came from Havilah. Okay? And how the Sulaim bin Mansur, so for example, the Solimi or Sulaim bin Mansur, a tribe of Arabs that were still in the 9th century, black as the lava of the Hara, meaning the volcanic areas of Syria, Arabia. Mm-hmm. According to Al-Jahiz and others, these people were the people called Salmai in the Bible, children of Manasseh, who was a son of Joseph. So up until the 15th century, for example, the Mamluks talked about the Israelites, the Nubians, Abyssinians, and Copts being indistinguishable in appearance. And they said that they were in conflict with the Greeks, who were called Melkites. Mm-hmm. Melkite Christians, and these people...
But was it also kind of like brownish or like black or whatever you would say, whatever you would call them. Because when I'm looking at Greek, like ancient Greek, the picture you showed is from Malta.
I'm talking about like I said, there's the Byzantines, were the Greco-Romans. They were later people. We're not talking about 1,000 years BC. We're talking about like after the 4th and 5th century or 3rd century AD, there were people in Greece that had moved in from Macedonia and places like this. That's why even today you find this conflict between Macedonians and the original darker skinned Greeks who claim, the Macedonians are claiming they're the original Greeks and that Alexander was from them and stuff like that. You find even conflict between European Turks or the European looking Turks and the people of Turkestan and Turkmenistan who were the original Turks. And they will say that the Euro Turks will say that they're the true Turks, but in reality, it was these Turkmenistani people and the Turkestan people that were the original Turks. But yeah, it's really interesting when you look at
Do you got some more pictures to show?
Oh, I got hundreds of pictures. Here's Southern Arabia, Aden. And here is, let's see, Wargla. Okay, this is where I was saying that the Sonic claim to have originated. Okay, so you have people here that are from the Sonic or Genoa, otherwise known as Gnawa, in Morocco, known as Gnawa. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No, not really.
The root of the word Guinea. So the word Guinea and even certain names in America that that were connected to gold and the gold trade actually came out of these people. So these were actually the Berbers.
So that's what you call them, the ones that was doing the merchant work and had all the money and all the trade. The Moors was one of them, but there was another name.
Well, I was saying that, the Moors were divided into the Arabs who were originally the black Arabs. Okay, they were black. And even today, if you go to the whitish Berber areas, they'll still tell you that the Arabs are dark-skinned. They're not, how we consider the Arabs like dark-skinned over here. But in Africa, when they came, they were dark-skinned. The Sulaim Halal.
It makes sense. When you talking about a desert and a region that's super hot, there had to be some kind of, blackish. You see what I'm saying? In order to survive.
Right.
Makes sense,
They were an extension of the early Africans that settled in the area in the Neolithic and Bronze Age. So, so the Genoa or Ghanaian people, who are the people that call themselves Berry, okay, throughout the Sudan, they're the peoples that created the Songhai and Mali civilization, as well as Ghana, the civilization of Ghana, which was very widespread. And these people
went all the way to Sudan, right? So went from Shanghai all the way to Sudan.
To actually, probably, yeah. Northwards, Ghana was considered, parts of Libya were considered Ghana, like the Fazan and Gadames and other places were considered Sudania or Ghana.
And so Gnawa actually turned into Ghana.
No, Ghana has to do with the word named Sargon, actually, to tell you the truth. Gan or king means Shargani, or Ghana meant king, but Genoa, China, the ancestor of the Berbers, was the same root of the name Guinea or Gnawa. Yeah. So the whole coast of Guinea was occupied by these people, which the Guinean coast, which was the slave coast. So a lot of African Americans are descendants from these people. And that is why in a legal document in America says that it is people that were called Berbers were the peoples called the slaves called Negroes. All right, hold on a second. So these are people.
Never heard about that the Berbers were actually the slave ones. That's interesting.
Well, the slaves in America were peoples called Berbers, Berry. They're otherwise called the Niger. peoples of the Niger or the Negroes. That's where the word comes from. So the people that became Negroes were the people that were originally called Beri Beri by the Arabs, or Berbers, Al-Barabir, or Bambara, Babars or Bambara, the Bambara.
How would you place the Hausa? Would you place the Hausa in the same category? Like
Some of the Hausa were called Kanambari. Yes, some of them were Kamambari. The traders among the Hausa were called Kamambari. Some of them were. The people of Borneo were called or Barnawi. The name means land of the Berbers. Yeah. So there were two main Berber peoples. There were these people, the Soning Songhai peoples, which include dozens of clans or sub-tribes. And then there were also the people called Tuareg, who were the kind of like a warrior people in North Africa. And those are the people that first got mad at the Romans and started, invading them when they settled in North Africa. And that's how Black people became feared, mainly because of these Amalekite people that were not only in North Africa, but in Arabia and Syria. Okay, so they became, considered cursed and all that. Hold on a second. So these are also, the Troyers are Arabs, actually. They're in Mauritania. They're descendants of the Makil Arabs. Oops.
wow, interesting stuff here.
Uh-oh. Well, I have a young man from Yemen that called me a lot because called me his mom. So,
I see.
I'm going to answer him one time. Okay, so this whole area south of Mecca, this is in Mecca, actually, the province of Mecca, which is a large part of Hijaz, the sacred land. This was originally the land of Shem, of the Hebrews and Arabs. The original land of Shem, not Syria.
That's the original Arabs right there, you see. Boy, you don't see them on TV. They don't even show you these type of faces. This is interesting. Yeah. But they're originally from Mecca, huh?
Yeah. Wow. This is Mecca, actually, the province of Mecca. And this area...
Interesting.
Yeah, this is...
They look different now, you know?
See, a lot of people don't know that, okay, Muhammad's tribe, the Quraysh, was from a people called the Canana. The word Canana is where we get the word Canaanite.
See, I was about to say, it sounds like Canaan, yeah?
Canaanite, and these Canaanite were cursed Black people, according to Europeans, because it has to do with, how they were, like I had said before, a lot of these people were involved in agriculture and stuff, and while the Amalekites and Philistines, they would not get off their camels to touch a plow. So they took this allegory about Hamran and Shimron, Hamran being the agriculturalist, and Shimron being the warrior class or the protector class, and these Eurasian people, like the Iranians and Syrians and Turks, other non-Arab people or non-Semitic people, made their own version and said that Shem was also Persian, and Japhet had small eyes, was from Turkey or whatever, Turkmenistan, and the Black people were cursed and were all African.
So that's when the hijack came in, huh? Okay.
Yeah, this was actually before. It started actually before Islam. It started in the Christian era, because
if you compare Shem and Ham, are these people the same tribes, or there's two different tribes?
Shem, Ham, and Japhet, and Noah's people were all the same. Yeah. Just showing you Songhai children. These are children of Hajamel. They're called the Hagari. So that's where the name Hagar came from. Okay. Hajari or Hagari. Hagar was Ishmael's mother, by the way. Okay, these are just...
What happened to all of these people? Are these, did these people got killed out, or was some genocide happening? down the line, or like?
It's only that, no, these people are still there. It's just that since the time of Zionism, they don't want to show these people, or they want to say that they're all slaves, descendants of slaves.
Okay, that's what they do. If you find Negroes in a certain region where they don't expect them to be, then they call them slaves, right?
Yeah.
Not telling you that they're the original inhabitants.
They still have the names of their tribes, and even though they were originally called black, like Hagar, even in the medieval era, was called black. In fact, there was a book or manuscript by El-Hakami who talks about the crinkly-haired people of the Black Earth, talking about the Egyptians or Copts and their mother Hagar. Okay, it's very extensive. There's an extensive literature about who was black in the ancient Arab world, but because people don't know Arabic, they've lost a lot of the history. What was I showing? No, here I was just showing the different, the so-called Mediterranean type in Egypt. So when anthropologists up until the 20th century, a lot of the 20th century never called these people black, of course. They're just called Mediterraneans. The brown Mediterranean type, or the Hamitic Caucasoid.
Mm-hmm.
And here's some people of northern Morocco, okay, who are descendants of the Masmuda tribe. And these people have always been described as black in that area.
And what about the Fulani people?
The Fulani people, that's my tribe, depends on which one you're talking about, because there's the agricultural Fulani, and there's the tall Wadabe people of that sort that claim anciently to have come from, both of them claim to come from Arabia, but I think one of them claims to have come originally from India and Anatolia, down through Anatolia, and brought the Zebu cattle with them, which originates in India. If you know anything about the Zebu cattle of the Fulani, they have gigantic horns. So the Fulani have a different history, but they're closest. They have been in Africa for thousands of years. They're closest.
See, that's something that's good. You're touching on India, because I wanted to ask you about India too. Like, because like nowadays, or even the Indians, they got conflict within their own society with the untouchables and the caste system and whatever's going on. And I would like to touch on the true history, because obviously, like, looking from my point of view, like, these people still look black to me, and some of them is even darker than you and me together. You see what I'm saying? So what is the true origin of India when it comes to?
Well, like I said, there were different black people settled in India. There were Negritos, there were Austric people that predate the African that moved in there. The people that were Dravidians are part now Austric and African and Scythians. These people that moved from the north that were part Iranic and part even European. The blonde people. There were blonde people in India. So all these people mixed together. But in South India, in the Indus, you also had what are called the Eastern Ethiopians. So these are very tall people that were ancestors of what's called the Black Jats.
So, because when I'm looking at Ethiopian people, I'm definitely seeing Indian people. They look very, very similar. So would you say that these Ethiopian people that we have now called Ethiopia is actually people that migrated from these regions, like India and all of these places?
No, those people.
They look familiar some kind of way, It's just...
Ethiopians actually are also mixed. They're not, the pure Hamitic. They're not pure Hamitic or pure Semitic peoples. They're people who, in the era of the Romans and Greeks, there's people from Central Asia, or people that look like Armenians. They migrated down into the coastal area of the Red Sea, and they settled in the coastal areas of Yemen and the Horn of Africa. And these Hamitic, Almatic people that you saw jumping over cattle are the original Hamitic peoples that mixed with these, these other.
And that's why you have into East Africa. So you say like the Ethiopians pretty much Arab people, black Arab people mixed with whatever type of races.
Yeah, I'm saying what the original Ethiopians looked like the Beja and like the ancient Egyptian and like the Watutsi and the Nilotic peoples.
Mm-hmm.
And then
you got some pictures or something, like some references?
Well, I already put up some of the pictures, but let me see if I can find them again.
Go to your website because you got some good ass pictures on your website. You know, like
yeah. See this? Oh, hold on a second. See this? This is what I mean by Hamitic, the original Almatic speaking or Afroasiatic people. Okay, so Semitic is a dialect of the Afroasiatic. Hebrew comes from the Canaanite. Canaanite and Hebrew were basically the same language, just like French and Basque, Spanish, whatever. Italian and originally came from Latin, that kind of thing. But yeah, these people that speak Amadic are speaking Afroasiatic dialect.
I see.
Asiatic dialects come out of the same group of people were settled.
Even sounds like Arabian, like I said, Arabian language, some kind of way, you know.
The Arab language is a Semitic dialect. It comes out of the mixture of Aramaic and the early Canaanite dialects. So the Canaanites are the peoples, like I said, the Kanana peoples, the Hudhail or Huzail peoples of Tahama, who were described as black. Okay, and all the early Semitic speakers were black people. They were connected to the peoples of Göbekli Tepe, which is, in Anatolia before Cataluyuk.
Like how you call it, Göbekli Tepe or something like that, right?
Yeah, Göbekli Tepe or Tepe.
Yeah, okay, wow.
So all those Neolithic sites were, the ancestral Afroasiatic peoples, black peoples that were jumping over cattle and showed themselves in rock art, or had the megalithic, stone structures throughout the Mediterranean and Anatolia and Europe. Even Stonehenge, originally when they started talking about the skeletons there, they said, oh, this belongs to the Hamitic or the brown Mediterranean type. Okay.
And the legends say that Scotland was named after a Phoenician or like an Egyptian god called Scota, right? So
Skota.
Yeah, it makes
sense. Egyptian princess, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably Phoenicians and other people settled there, and just like they settled Portugal, because you have people that were called Negre Aramo. Wait, Negre. I can't think of the name they used, but it had the word Negre, black in it, Negro. So that's when you know that, a lot of they're talking about the original Afro-Asiatic or Hamitic or black Semitic type, Afro-Semitic peoples. Even a lot of these Beja peoples that settled in Nubia they were not originally from the area, but came back into Nubia.
Mm-hmm.
But the Fulani, according to certain archaeologists and rock art specialists, are connected to the C group Nubians. Their physical culture was connected to C group Nubians. The genetics of the Fulani, or Wardabe especially, is connected to East Africans and the Afroasiatics, not to other West African peoples. They know that they adopted the Niger-Congo dialects, but they retained the kind of Cushitic and Ethiopian type of ancestry, genetic ancestry. But again, you have other peoples called Nilo-Saharans.
What about the Bantu people?
Well, Bantu people, depending on which ones you're talking about, there's different. See, that's the problem is.
But I don't really know too much about them. I just know Bantu, so I can't really tell you which ones. But just
there's different groups of Bantu, and some of them, for example, they have similar biology to ancient Egyptians. Others are, more like the southern parts of Sudan, but they claim to have come from the northeast. So I don't know how far northeast they came, but if you notice I also have a post on here that talks about the connection of the Zulu type, or the I can't remember the other type that has a clicking sound.
Oh, you mean the bush people from South Africa? How you call them? I don't know.
Oh, you have it in the South Africa. You have also a clicking.
Yeah, they be doing that too.
I forget what the name of the group is, but if you look at their physical type, like the fact that they're
Hottentots? How you call them? Hottentots or something like that?
No,
No?
no, that's the group that's related to the so-called Bushman San people, Afro San. But anyway, the dialect.
Khoisan, or something like that.
The Afro-Asiatic dialects are sometimes called Afro-San dialects because they do have affinity or affiliation with these Khoisan, dialects. So, but what I was trying to say is that these groups in South Africa, some of the groups have a physical appearance, like the thick legs at the bottom that you see on the pharaohs or the portrayals of the statues. You'll see the thick wrist and the bone structure of the pharaonic period among these southern South Bantu. So Africans are a mixture of different people. They've always been and according to certain genetic studies, the DNA of people of the Great Lakes region is closely related, for example, to the 18th dynasty and certain of the intermediate period.
What about the Lebo people? Because the guy was saying, the elder guy was saying that the Lebo people actually, like I said, they migrated into Africa and then stayed in Egypt for a minute. But they said they became the pharaohs in I think also the 19th or the 20th dynasty or something like that. Is this accurate?
You said Lebo or Lemba?
The Lebo people.
Well,
located in Senegal right now.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about Lemba.
No, not the Lebo.
Okay, did the Lebo people say that?
Yes.
Okay. So, yes, that's what, I have a whole, even on this, let me see if I can find it.
He even said that Lebanon was actually called after them, like named after them, because Lebo, and then Lebanon. It's like they said that's where it came from.
I'm not sure about that, but I do know that. Hold on a second. Lubnain.
I'm gonna send you the video later on so you can look at it yourself. Like, it's an elder guy, and he really broke it down, like where they came from, and it ties to everything that you're saying right there. It's like he's backing it up. What you're saying, 100%.
Yeah, this ties to what I was saying about the Canaanites coming into Africa. The Canaanite Girgashites or Quraysh, and the Amorites or Amaru, and the other groups, Hivites or Lehavats. All these groups of Berbers did come into North Africa. They came from Canaan. They were the Canaanites, just like they said. The Lehaba or Lebu also were part of this group. They're called in the Bible Lehubim, and you have the Letushim or Tausim, and you have the Lahim or Lachman. Menelik's name comes from them. Beit Lachim, Bethlehem.
Sound like Elohim.
Well, Beit Lahim, kind of, yeah. I think it was
Bethlehem and stuff like that.
I think Lachim was related to the deity in India called, well, first of all, called Lakshmi, but there's also Lakshman. It has the same meaning because those people moved over into the Persian Gulf and India, like I said. But yeah, I'm not sure. I can't remember. I have to go back and look. But what was I supposed to be looking for? Pictures of?
Yeah, show some more pictures, some more material. But I must say, your research is really very, very, very thorough, man. I mean, I gotta tip my
Well, it has to be thorough because it's academic research.
your knowledge.
It's not, it's not knowledge from the streets. It's academic.
Yeah, I can tell you. You know what you're talking about, and the good thing is you can back it up with references. You can back it up with pictures. Yeah. There's no debating. It's in your face right there. You know, what else can you say? I mean, it's so obvious. And these pictures never been shown. And the funny thing is, you from New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
African people don't even talk about that. They don't even, seems like they don't even know their own history. Because I never heard any African, besides that guy, besides the Lemba people and the Level people, I never heard anybody talking about their connection to Arabia or to India or to Baghdad or, to the Mediterranean.
Yeah, that's why it's important to look at the colonial text, because if you look at the colonial text, they'll tell you, like the Tuareg used to say that they came from Canaan or Palestine 9 centuries before Alexander the Great. Now, I also was on a site called the what is it called? Kind of like a site I didn't want to stay on it because it was a little racist. It was a little racist towards whites. But what is it called? And a man called Jade was the DJ on there, or the moderator. In any case, he told me that most Africans, they have that tradition, that it's well known in Africa that they come from Canaan, or that they believe that they come from Canaan. He was Hausa. He said, so Americans don't share the same beliefs about their origins, but they believe that Africans all know their origins. And that's what he said. And even at that time when he was saying, I'm saying, well, okay.
So you think they're hiding it on purpose? Are they hiding it, or is it people just forgot about it, or what's the point behind it? Because
the Europeans are definitely hiding it, yes, because Europeans think that they are the Hebrews. They are the people of Noah.
And I'm not even talking about the Europeans. Like, leave them out of the picture for now. I'm talking about just the Africans themselves, black people themselves, that's coming from that continent, that the people that's heavy religious, Muslim, Christian, Jews, or whatever. Even the Ethiopian Orthodox people, I never heard anybody, none of them said anything about, we from Arabia, or we from we migrated into Africa. I never heard that story. That's why it was so mind-blowing to me. And that's why I had to reach out to you for you to break it down for us, because it's so interesting, and it kind of like flips everything upside down. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I was trying to say, is that this guy said that the traditional Africans, they all know their history from Canaan, and Israel and places of that sort. But what happens is that the European academia, the European academic arena, they're the ones, and the Orientalists, and including the Zionists, and people that wanted to say that they were, Europe colonized Africa. And that means including the educational system, or especially the educational system, and the history of Africa. It's completely been denied. Even people like the Garamantes, I don't know if you're familiar with the Garamantes in Libya, in southern Libya, which was a Gara, or Jerma, Songhai area. That area for a long time was considered to be, white people ruling over the docile Negro. So this is not, it's not coming from the Africans, it's coming from the Europeans for, the last 100 years. Just recently, in the last 30 or 40 years, or not even that, I should say, 20 years, there's been a number of people going back to colonial sources and showing that, and also genetics, because genetics and physical anthropology are showing who these people were, and we're not. Even though there's some people that are trying to make them into, still trying to say, oh, they're just mixed with Negroes, that kind of thing. But, for example, the Garamantes now, they're saying, oh, they were basically sub-Saharan Africans. But that's only recently, in the last 10 years. And genetics, fortunately, is starting to show also the lies that have been told. Yeah, so...
The stuff you just showed us here now in this hour since we've been talking, what you showed us right here, this is like, everything I learned in school is like, come on, man, this is deep, I'm seriously like.
It was just brainwashing, that's what it was.
Big time brainwashing.
So
I'm speechless right now, looking at these pictures, hearing what you're saying, it's wow. That's what I said. Kudos for your research,
Well, thank you. It's not just me though; it's the ancestors.
Most definitely.
The ancestors that have been bringing this. I mean, I could tell you all the experiences that I've had as a shaman, and born into a family that was into theosophy and different esoteric traditions. But the most important thing is to have the science behind it come to the fore. Because, a lot of the stuff I had seen already in dreams, like these people I'm showing you right now, I saw them in North Africa, riding horses in figure eights in the area of Libya. These people are called the Tubu or Gorain. They're also found in Arabia. All people in North Africa that used to be in North Africa extend on both sides of the Red Sea and Sinai. So if you go to Sinai, you'll see black people called the Quraysh or Goresa. And these are the people of Muhammad's tribe. When I first saw pictures of them, I thought to myself, how could these be the Quraysh? They're black. And they complain about their blackness. But then I learned that the original Quraysh and the original Canaana from Elias and from the Kedar, from Ishmael and from Hagar were and are still black. All these people are still black. These are other people of the Upper Atlas from Tin Mao, the area where the Almohad or Almohad dynasty was. And the Almohads said that the Almoravids were sending.
That's pretty much when you talking about Spanish, like Moorish Spain.
Yes.
That's kind of like what the Moors used to look like, right there.
That is what the Moors used to look like. Yes.
Wow. Because people like you hear yourself, like people trying to debate people like the Moors wasn't black. It don't mean black. That that was like Arab, but that wasn't black. Blah, blah. Like people, I always hear that. I made a couple videos before, like some stuff, and then people commented on the post, say, you talking false history, like the Moors are not black, but you see what you're showing right there. It's evidence.
Yeah, these are descendants of the Masmuda Berbers who occupied the Upper Atlas, as they were saying. They even said that the Berbers were changing their color in that time because the Almoravids, who were the Tuareg dynasty in Spain, the Philistine dynasty, were sending in European slave soldiers, and the slave soldiers were taking advantage of the Berber women. And they were turning them into rosy-cheeked children. And the leader said, oh, this can't be true. This must be hard to take, that they're doing this. And that's part of the reason why he went, he actually led the rebellion of the Moors, of these, the Black Masmuda, or Masamida, as they were called, and the dynasty of Al-Muwahhidin was born. Okay, and here's some more Moors. You look at the...
Yeah, scroll in a little something so we can see it a bit more clearer. Can you scroll in a bit more?
Yeah. Ooh, I can do that.
Yeah, it's perfect. That's cool.
And these people are still wearing in the Numidian area, Algeria. You still see these same turbans.
Yeah, you see in the turbans, you see the black skin, everything, yeah.
But you still see, this is from the 14th century.
Mm-hmm.
This painting is from 600 years ago, at the very time that Spain was being taken back over by the Europeans, okay? So it was drawn true to life. That's why he knew what these turbans looked like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a fact.
Oh, this is... Okay.
Okay, that go back again. That's Iraq, ain't it?
No, this is Persia, of course.
Oh, Persia, okay, yeah.
And this is, again, Aden, which is the southern part of Yemen. Aden was founded by Adnan. Aden happens to be the name Eden. That is where the word Eden comes from. Okay, this is more refugees in Yemen. Because Yemen's going through a hard time.
Everything is leading back to Yemen, huh? The way it looks like now.
Yeah, the Arabs claim descent from Yemen, all the Arabs. Here's Mukalla in southern Yemen. This is a foreigner visiting Mukalla in southern Yemen. Now, Hajjamat has places called Sion,
yeah.
Yes. Oh, those are African American women. Okay, see how he...
That's your red-bearded ones. Wasn't the one the Roman Empire? The Roman Emperor, yeah, also was red-bearded, right? What's his name again?
Yeah, listen, this is called henna. You see, this is henna. He dyes his head, his beard with henna.
See, funny things in India that do that too, right?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I just saw a video yesterday about Indian people, and they had the same red beard, same thing.
They may have been Muslim. They may have been Muslim. Okay, so this is a Tuareg back here, and this looks like I don't know if she's Fulani. But do you know the indigo of the Tuareg and other African and the Transjordanian people is the Phoenician purple. The Greeks used to call it Phoenician purple. Because those were, this is St. Musa the Berber. He was also called St. Musa the Black. Those are Ethiopian Jews. Falasha. That's the name of a tribe, by the way, in southern Arabia. Falasa.
The guy on the left looks like he's Black Mongolian.
A little bit, yeah. But see, that's where the Afro-San people come in. The San or Bushman people.
But they definitely look like the Yemen people for sure.
Well, I must look Indian to you.
I mean, you do, yeah. You have a look at Indian. I mean, like I said, they blacky to me. Like, I never understood why they're saying they consider themselves.
Well, some of them are, and some of them are proud to be connected to blacks. But there's others, of course, that are. Here's that picture again of the Moors. Or is this another picture? There's another picture of the Moors fighting against Alfonso's troops in Valencia, Spain.
And
supposedly,
go back again. I mean, you look closely. Even the ones that was fighting, even the Christians, some of them was black. You see? Look at the guy right here on the right side. Yeah, right there. Now he look like he mixed with something. Now he's not typical white. You know what I mean?
Well, anyway, yeah, a lot of them were dark, like bronzy.
I mean, on both sides. I'm talking about now.
But these are Yeah, the Moors
But that's the Moors, yeah.
distinguishable from
all the rest of them, yeah.
those Spaniards who were tanned. This is just Oromo Gala, so-called Gala tribe, Ethiopia. You know what I want to go through? This is Moroccan, Beni Hadou. This is the Shula Basmuda Berbers of the Upper Atlas again. And here are the Jordanians that look just like them because they're all related. They were related. As I said, the people came from this area into Sinai and through Egypt and settled in North Africa. They're called the Canaanites. Banu Kanana is a name even today in this area. Okay.
Which part is this one here?
This is Jordan.
Jordan.
I mean, I'm sorry. This is the Hula Valley. Yeah, I think it's Jordan. Jordan Valley. Yeah. And Hula, if you look in the...
And that's right next to Israel anyway, right? It's a border country from Israel, right?
They have these people in Israel too because Jericho was it's part of the Gor. Jericho is in Israel and they have the Beni Kanana that live there. Canania. These are gypsies these are
you can tell they're pitch black, you know what I mean? Like real dark skin.
Where is this? Anyway, that's Aden, southern Yemen. This is, again, Moroccan Berbers. These Moroccan Berbers, you see. This is Queen Califia in California. They used to have these. Polynesian people used to have these too, some of them. Yemen. This is Yemen. Okay, and the thing is, this is Transjordania, Jordan, New Jersey.
Yeah, look like they could be from the Caribbean too, ain't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they're just black people that have a slight admixture, and you see their Phoenician origin too here in their.
Oh yeah, see, that's good that you touch on the Phoenicians. Can you talk about the Phoenicians a little something? Who they were?
Well, according to the Greeks, the Phoenicians the Phoenicians were connected to the Solomonians, or Salimi people, who, like I said, with Sulaim bin Mansur. You also had the Nabateans, who were considered Phoenicians by the Arabs. So these people this Transjordania is the land of the Nabateans, or Nubite, who were black people according to Arab sources. The original peoples that created civilization in the Middle East, according to these Arab sources. And they're also descendants of the Judeans, or Kunais, or Kenizzite, Caleb peoples in this area.
Mm-hmm.
And the Moabites as well. This is considered one of the Moabites where they occupy. This is just when I was celebrating Easter. One of the black saints. Songhai, Oskini Sonik women.
And are you familiar with Saint Maurice?
Yeah.
Can you talk about him a bit?
I think he was Nubian, but because, at that time, Moors and Nubians were the same people. For the European, a Moor was a Blemmie. Blemmies were called Moors in the 7th century AD. Blemmies of Nubia were called Bilam. You'll see them in the Bible. It's called Bilam. They're called Bilam too, and their leader is called. Balaam.
Mm-hmm.
Balaam. He's an Edomite.
Okay.
It's a long story, but anyway, here's more people in the Bir Ali coast of Yemen, the area of Kane or Kane of the Torah. Talks about Ezekiel talks about Haran and
So
Canaan.
biblical stories, you're pretty much talking about. You used to be talking about Yemen, Jordan,
Yeah.
and all of these places, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So all these places, Eden, Aden, Kane, Haran, these are all places in Yemen. Here is just a, was it early 20th century French magazine photo of, see, French, Le Petit Journal,
Moroccan
1903, yeah, in Morocco.
Moroccan army, yeah.
Yeah.
And all of them blackies, you see me? Yeah.
Yep, and that's, like I said, these are people of the Gower or Jordan. And then you have peoples of Abu Dhabi, original Arabs of Abu Dhabi.
See, that's the Persian Gulf.
Yeah, the Persian Gulf. And you find those in Kuwait, the same thing. A lot of the original Arabs, or all of the original Arabs, are black in these places. Even in Iraq, you'll find 2/3 of the black Arabs are supposedly 2/3 of the blacks in Iraq are said to have been of the Hawazin or Beni Amr bin Zaza, who were the major groups of Ishmaelites in northern Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and how the Ashanti came to be?
Ashanti or
From
people,
Ghana, like the Ghana Ashantis.
yeah, those are modern peoples of Ghana, and they're connected to people like the Yoruba and the Igbo, and but they're also mixed with other African groups, Hausa and peoples from the south too. So the peoples further south of Sudan were not necessarily of the same Nilo-Saharan groups. The Nilo-Saharan groups along the Nile that moved into the Sahara were the ancestors of the Soninke and Songhai. So they adopted the Niger-Congo groups, the Malink dialects, and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is Yemen. Fulani.
You're saying the Shantis that we know today is like more or less a modern group compared to the original tribe used to be there before them.
Oh yeah, they're connected to, like I said, the Yoruba and other groups. But not necessarily. Well, the Yoruba and the other groups themselves, like I said, they have connection to the early Jewish groups of the Soninke, the Bafur or Yafur, as I recall them. And
Yoruba, like do you know the word Yarub? Have you heard about it? Yeah,
yes.
they also down. What is it? Afghanistan, or one of the places, or something like that.
No.
Arabia, or something like that.
Arabia, yeah. The word Arabia comes from that word. Bayarab.
So you say Yarub is connected to
Yes, Yarab or Yarub. Arab was ancestor to the Ufair or Bafur Soninke. So the word Arab, originally is connected to.
So that means the Yoruba people really not from West Africa. So that really migrated into it. Just when you look at the etymology of the name itself, like you look it up, and Yoruba is coming from Yarub, and that's Yarub is connected then wherever it is, but not Africa. Interesting. Now
well, again, we have to remember that these people came into Africa like over 1,000 years BC. Mm-hmm. A lot of them. Some came in a little bit afterwards, but so they're basically the people that named Africa. Afarik or Farik ibn Ham, ibn Baisur ibn Ham. Ba Yasser ibn Ham was, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, Doro, Arabian people. But Farik or Ifrikash Tuba, meaning Ifrikash, the Tuba is a Himyarite leader, meaning leader of the Himyar, of the Humer or Himyarites. Himyar was a people that were connected to the Sabians of the Yemen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Wargla is the area where the Sonic, Genoa, or Guinean peoples. Now, I don't know, this would be interesting to find out how is the name Guyana connected, do you know?
I mean, I was checking out something yesterday that was kind of mind-boggling because, you know, like I told you, like my folks, they're coming from the Oyapock River, right? And Oya, you know what Oya is, right? Oya was actually, it's an Orisha god.
Goddess, I think.
So I was just thinking, like, hold on, man. How she ended up over there, you know, like with the name Oya, you know?
Yeah, I got to check into that myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's more children of Jordan. As you can see, they're basically the Canaanite Nabateans were African peoples, trying to make them into slaves, but they're described in the time 1,000 years ago as black. Again and again and again. This is not something that I'm making up.
Mm-hmm. And this is a modern picture, so you can imagine how they used to look like 1,000 years ago. I mean,
yes, these are mixed people.
They're mixed already. Okay, what's that over there?
To Temple of Nubia.
Can you close up a bit? Zoom in. So who are these people right there? What you say? What kind of tribe they belong to?
They're basically ancient Egyptians, or the Kemet people.
Kemetic.
In Nubia, yeah. Now, there was connection between the ancient Egyptians and Nubians, again, with the Arabians in the Tehama, the area completely, on the opposite side of the Red Sea. Mecca is in the same latitude as Sudan, the country of Sudan.
Mm.
You know? So those
Mozambique, like the Arabian, I mean, Mozambique's supposed to be called after an Arabian king called Musa el-Mbik.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, you can look it up. Like I checked it a couple of days ago.
I know there's a Musa.
Yeah, it was like Musa and then el-Mbik, and then it turned into Mozambique.
Okay, so this is
another hint for the Arabian influence.
Mm-hmm. This is Miss Morocco, but she faced a lot of discrimination against by the, of course, the fair-skinned people in Morocco who have nothing to do with the early Berbers and Moors. These are Fulani, or the Wadabe Fulani, who are connected to the Sea Group peoples of the Karga Oasis, the Kerma culture. I wrote here, perhaps that's the name Libu in Senegal. Interesting. Okay, so the Fulani, these Wadabe, a lot of people don't know, also are soaring close to 7 feet high. The pastoral nomads.
See, what you say makes sense, because when you look at Senegal people, they're really tall,
Okay. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Senegalese they ain't short people. Like they some of them is really giants, Also the ladies, like tall, slim, tall, good looking ladies.
Okay.
And it even says right here, like perhaps left the name of Lebo. You see the Lebo people again in Senegal, similar to the Wazubi, the very tall Fulani ancestors. Mm-hmm.
Similar to the Watutsi. The Tutsi or Batutsi are in East Africa, but they're similar to these people. And the hairstyles of these Wadabe are similar to the Cushitic peoples of East Africa, south of Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. So these people probably came from the same, region.
It's like the same stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking about the Barzu Fulatani. I had to find out if they're connected to the Barzet Jephelet of the Torah,
Mm-hmm.
who were, one of the Hebrew peoples. Here's Harar in Ethiopia.
Like Dana, you breaking the spell right here, man. You waking a lot of people up with that information.
Well, I am surprised that you're just now learning about it, but
Well, I'm pretty good with ancient history and stuff, but like I said, I always thought like Africans came from Africa, and I never knew that also these Africans migrated. Like I said, it's just a complete different story what I have been told. But I'm aware of a lot of stuff you're saying, but not to that extent. Now this is you're taking it a step further. You know what I mean? Seriously.
Yep. Okay, good. So these are the Tuareg or Veiled Berbers, and they're the ones that were actually called Amazigh or Mazigh. They were called by the Greeks Mazigh Ethiopians. Mm-hmm. And they claim, and the Nabateans in Jordan were called Mazexos. Some of the tribes were called Mazexos, just like these people. And so I say, across the side from Jordan, Syria, Syro-Jordan area, to Sinai into North Africa, you had the same peoples.
And look at the Yoruba people, or the Hausa people. They're dressed the same way, same everything. The same turbans, same swords, everything. Look the same way.
Except for the veil. Yeah. And these two are the Berbers of Tunisia.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a painting of the Berbers of Tangiers, met by the, I think, Spaniards, yeah.
It's just mind-boggling to see how fast a whole society can change. Because, like I said, you look at Tunisia right now, Algeria, Morocco. They don't look nothing like them. Of course, you see a lot of them is mixed breed. You know what I mean? You can see that, but nothing like the pictures you're showing us today. This is a different race right there. A different country, but.
Yep. So here it says, I wrote the Grattan Elliott Smith wrote of how in Morocco the word Moor is often used to suggest Negro influence. So unlike in America or the West, where they try to make the Moors into non-Negroes, in Morocco, a Negroid person was considered a Moor.
Right. Yeah.
And here in the 8th century, there's it's called there was a Latin Chronicle of 754, meaning the 8th century AD, after the Islamic, wave. It says that the Moors were attacked by, the Syrians coming into Morocco. They decided on their own initiative to hasten to the sea, crossing the territory of the Moors to attack Tangiers with the swords. But the army of the Moors, realizing this, immediately burst forth from the mountains of the Atlas Mountains to the battle, naked, girded only with loincloths, covering their shameful parts. When they joined with each other in battle at the Naba River, the Egyptian horses immediately recoiled in flight, as the Moors on their beautiful horses revealed their repulsive color and gnashed their white teeth. Despairing, they, meaning the Syrians, launched another attack. The Arab cavalry again instantly recoiled due to the color of the Moors' skin. That comes from the Latin Chronicle of 754. Okay? Look it up here. What's this?
Well, no,
now somebody sent me this. Looks like some Berber tribe, but I don't know. Paulo Akam sent me that. This is more mixed people, but Yeah, these must be mainly Moroccans. The Moroccans, because he lives in, he's part Moroccan, I think. So,
Yeah.
so you have many texts talking about what the Masmuda looked like and the other 4 tribes of the Berbers. There are 5 main tribes of the Berbers, and they were all described as black. So, and not only that, they were usually said to have been, they got their blackness because they were cursed. They had the curse of Canaan. This is southwest Algeria. This is just...
That one I know. That's from Spain, right?
Yeah. These may be Arabs. They look like Arab.
I think Andalusia or something like that, right?
Andalusia is just the name of Spain. Or the area occupied by the Moors in Spain.
Moors, yeah.
It's more Jordanian people of Ghor al-Mazrah.
And these are Christians, you say?
Oh, say that again?
They are Christians, like many
of them are Christians, yeah. Not all of them, but many of them are Christians. These are American Muslims. These are Black Jewish.
one. Okay, yeah. Let's talk about the Jews a little bit too.
India.
Okay. India. Okay, now we're talking business.
As you notice, the stripes.
Yeah.
It was very common among Jewish people to wear stripes and stuff. Benjamin Tudela in the 12th century wrote, "The people of this country," I'm talking about Kerala, Malabar, "do not bury their dead, but embalm them by means of various spices. And throughout the island, including all the towns, there live several thousand Israelites. The inhabitants are all black, and the Jews also. The latter are good and benevolent. They know the law of Moses and the prophets, and to a small extent, the Talmud and the Halsha." Benjamin of Tudela, 12th century AD.
12th century, you see.
Thousands of Israelites, black Israelites, okay. So they came from Arabia, though. Okay, and these are more Fulani women.
Mm-hmm.
And I first started studying the Fulani because when I was at the University of Chicago, the University of Chicago's Oriental Institute Library, I saw a picture of men painted, in a kind of on the side. They were in profile.
Oh, they're painted like transvestites or like women and stuff, yeah? I think I saw them too, like where they kind of reverse the culture, right? Like the men look like females, and there's some weird stuff going on there. I saw that myself.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Click on that picture like that? I think that's the picture.
I'm telling you, I saw a painting that was from the, I guess it was from the intermediate period of ancient Egypt, thousands of years BC, of the ancient Libyans called Chehenu. Mm-hmm. And these people were they were basically the same color as these people. They had
right there, with the feathers.
Yeah, these are Fulani too.
Yeah, because that's what I'm talking about. Like, you see how they're dressed? Like all of these men, but they're dressed like women. You see, and they even put makeup in that.
I don't see where they're dressed like women, but yeah. They have makeup on. Yes, that's part of the culture. It's called the Garawal. So they're doing this to attract women.
Exactly, because I saw they was talking about that. That's how they're trying to attract women. They're dressed like women, put makeup on, but this is pretty much to attract women.
Well, no, they're not dressed like women at all. They don't wear women's
They're not dressed like, but like they put makeup on their face and stuff.
Yes, but the thing is, it's interesting because these men are considered the most warlike in Africa, except for the Tuareg veiled men who have to. The Tuareg, by the way, are ruled by women. So, in other words, they're a matriarchal society.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing. Well, the Fulani.
Like most ancient people, like most ancient customs was like matriarchal, right?
No, only the black people. The black Arabs too were. The queens are the ones that fought against the Assyrians, which is interesting. Oh, wait a second, is that the end? Anyway, what I was going to say is these people, these men, they had a custom of never turning back in battle. So never retreating in battle. This is the Wadabi or the Fulani. They're actually a large group of I don't know if it's in Guyana, but in the United States, they're a large group of, genetically, they're a large part of the black population of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
But, hold on. Oh, here we go. Okay, here's Yemen again. This book says Arab peasants still wearing clothing very similar to that worn in the Bible days. Mm-hmm. Women of Marrakech.
Oh, that's the Marrakesh woman. Okay, I see.
Morocco. Here's Yemen again. Yemen, the bead is known as Sapta in the Bible, Sapta, son of Cush, because Cush is the name of that area. That was the biblical area of Cush. Mm. Cush was in Yemen. Mizraim was in southern Arabia.
We say Cush was in Yemen and not Israel?
Yes. The biblical Cush was in Yemen. Mm. Next to Mizraim, which has been misinterpreted as Egypt. Mm. There's a Tuareg again of Libya. Oh, this is Niger.
So these people everywhere, huh?
Oh, yeah, they're in all parts, and they're in Burkina Faso, which used to be called Upper Volta. Mm-hmm. They're in Gambia, yeah. Because they're nomads. They're not, they're not settled people. Mm. They're people. Okay, so here's the Moors. I forget. This is somewhere in
Europe.
Asia. No, not Europe.
That's Asia? Okay, I thought it looked like Europe to me.
I have this picture somewhere else. Anyway, let me see. This is the Masi culture, which a lot of the cultures of West Africa come from, are related to the peoples further north in the Yoruba, Songhai culture. This is just showing.
What about the Kenyan people? Do we have any origin story from these guys?
Kenya?
Yeah, Kenya. Swahili. I mean, Swahili sounds Arabic too.
No, that was the later Arabians came into that area and colonized the area. A lot of people from Yemen. A lot of the Kenyans are from, actually, their grandparents are from Yemen. But originally, the Maasai are also called, their warriors are called Ilmaran. And that's the same thing as the Arameans were called, their warrior castes were called Mariano.
Mm-hmm. And they're usually tall too, right? Like the Fulanis, ain't it?
Yeah, supposedly they're tall. But yeah, I had done this kind of a little bit of research about the Maasai, and probably they're part of that Afro-Arabian, the Afro-Nilotic Hamitic group that settled in Arabia at one time. Mm. Because, like I said, the name...
This one is from China. Like, this one is Buddha's from China. 1,000
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
That's another subject, like the East.
That's a whole other.
Yeah.
Okay. It has a similar architect to Mali. It's one of my favorite pictures. Omani girls. Gat girls. Now the name Gat, that's a name that the Philistines call their land Gath.
Mm-hmm.
So Gat in all these places, Tauric places, actually are named, have the same names as the ancient Philistine names, like Ubar or Adite. There's people called the Adites. They were related to. Gat and Agades or Cadiz or Kadesh.
Mm-hmm.
And Asbin or Yashbin or Eshban. That's the name of a Horite, the Horite people. And they also have, if you look at the religion of the Akkadians, the early Akkadians, there's similar deities like Gurzel, Ningirsu in Akkadian, but Gurzel in the Tauric dialect.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a lot of different connections that one can find if you're familiar with the Tauric towns, the town names,
Mm-hmm.
it's very interesting. Just to show who we're talking about the Moors. Again, these are the Arabs of Senegal, and these are the Moors of Spain, who had been captured by Alfonso?
No, Isabella, huh?
Or Isabella.
Wow. Like I said, I think we're gonna have to do a part 2.
Okay.
Cause we only got 2 hours and we got like 3 minutes left.
Okay. So these are Trarza Moors of Senegal. So they're Arabs, though. They're not Berbers. They're Arabs that came in during the 9th century into Africa. And here we show they're still wearing the same.
Yeah, look, just alike, same flow, same thing. Yeah.
Yep. And this is Hajamal Zanzibar. So if people go to my Facebook page, they'll see a lot of interesting.
Yeah, let them know how they can reach you in case they want to reach out.
Yeah, they can go to, let's see, what's my Facebook page?
All right, there it is, people. So you want to reach out, learn more about the ancient history, reach out to Dana. It was definitely a pleasure to have you on. I hope you can do a part 2, because I think that's a couple more things we got to touch. It's just like a little introduction into what you're doing. Like I said, kudos from my side. Like, respect to the work that you're doing. You're definitely making our ancestors proud. 100%.
They're making us proud, and they're the ones that are, like I said, bringing this information through. So,
most definitely.
Kudos to them.
So, like I said, it was an honor, and like I said, hopefully we can do a part 2. I'll fix up everything, and then I'll send you the copy before I release it, and then take it a step further. So, like I said, respect is definitely mind blowing. Like I said, this is a history that's never been told, and yeah, it's time that that the masses kind of like get to know what it is, what the truth is, because obviously it's based upon some truth, because you backing it up with facts and pictures and everything. So it's undeniable,
Thank you so much for having me as a guest.